Today I am super excited to be sharing with you my experience using the brand new Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5, now featuring a bigger and more functional cover screen, a more durable hinge design, as well as a new processor and better battery life. Now this is actually my first flip style folding phone, and after using it for the past weeks, I gotta say there's a lot I really like, but also some things that I don't like and things that I think you should know before buying. Today I'm going to be covering everything you need to know. As always guys, I will leave all the purchase links down in the description. Now, the most striking part of the Flip 5 is of course the fact that, well, it flips, and unlike the larger Fold 5 or the Pixel Fold, which turned from a sort of a typical phone into a tablet-like phone, the Flip 5 turns from a really portable square-shaped device into a full-size phone, which means you get a really portable package without having to compromise on the display size. Now, when closed, the phone is literally half the size of, say, the S23 Ultra or the iPhone 14 Pro Max, albeit a bit thicker. And I've got to say, you really feel this difference, especially in the pocket. It just feels more comfortable, especially when sitting, as the phone never digs into your waist. And ladies, for some reason, women's clothes always seem to have very small pockets, if any, and for that, I gotta say this really small form factor will be very convenient. And then in the hand, the aluminum and glass design of the Flip 5 feels well made and I think looks premium. I especially like this cream color that I have here. I think it matches the aluminum frame so well. Samsung also offer other pastel colors, and of course the classic black color if you like as well. Now, despite it being a flip phone, it is still actually IPX6, IPX8 rated. This means you can safely use it in the rain, though I was a little bit surprised to see that even after just 3 weeks of use, I already have some minor marks and scratches on the aluminum frame as well as the glass bottom of the phone. Now this is minor, but after just 3 weeks, it does make me wonder how this phone will look after, say, 3 years. Compared to the previous Flip 4, one of the big upgrades that the Flip 5 gets is a new hinge, and this now uses less parts and also eliminates the visible gap that was previously visible on the Flip 4 when the phone was closed. And I think this looks a lot cleaner and also creates a more thinner package when the phone is closed in your pocket. However, I do want to note that I did still at times when opening the phone find pocket lint and other dust or even a little bit of sand still creep its way in between the displays when having the phone in my pocket, and this is not great, but I'll touch more on my durability concerns as we go. Still, the hinge itself feels super smooth to operate. You can open it with one hand, but it feels more natural to use 2 hands. But I will say there is very few things more satisfying than ending a call by closing your phone shut. And you can do this with one hand. It is such a throwback, and it sounds just right. Have a listen. So good. I gotta say, there's really something fun about using the Flip 5, something that I don't really get with other phones. It's hard to explain, but you will feel this too. It's just so different compared to a typical candy bar style phone, and its small size makes it a breeze to carry all day. The next big upgrade that the Flip 5 gets is a much bigger and thus more functional cover screen, where on the previous Flip 4, it always felt a bit gimmicky, you know, more show than function. But the Flip 5 changes that. Now having a 3.4-inch 1600 nit cover screen, it is not only big and bright enough to comfortably use, say, even outdoors and in the sun. Samsung have also added some really useful software features. For starters, I found the cover screen to be a great way to check my notifications in the morning when first waking up. And what I like about this in particular is because I'm doing this on the cover screen, I'm less likely to open an app and waste time. Instead, just focus on the notifications. And then if you swipe to the right, you can swipe through a series of widgets which are very minimalistic in their design, and it kind of gives me smartwatch vibes. It runs really well and I think is quite well designed for this display. And you can actually take it one step further, where in Samsung Labs you can enable full apps to run on this display. For example, YouTube, Netflix, or reply to messages, for which the on-screen keyboard, I would say, is just big enough to use for a quick reply. I also really enjoy using the cover screen as a viewfinder, which is great for the cameras, and the small size means you get a good grip on the phone, and the fact that you're using the back or the main cameras means you get better quality when compared to the inside camera. But I'll talk more about the cameras in a second. First, let's flip the phone open and take a look at this main 6.7-inch display. Now, this is an interesting display because it kind of has the height very similar to the S23 Ultra, with the width more compared to the smaller S23. So this very tall yet narrow aspect ratio makes it very comfortable to hold even if you have smaller hands. I also also think it is perfect for split screen multitasking. I like to have, for example, YouTube open here in the top half and then Amazon or a Notes app in the lower half as I'm researching products for upcoming videos. Now the display is also super smooth with a 120 Hz refresh rate, and this means that any movement on screen is smooth like butter. And the main display is also very bright. I would say it's almost as bright as the S23, coming in at 1100 nits compared to 1300 nits, so it's still visible enough in the sun. You also get vibrant colors, and this really makes your content come to life. And then the minimal punch hole camera on the top is easy to forget, especially if you're coming from iPhone, though I would love to see Samsung add the underscreen fingerprint underscreen camera from the Fold 5, which I'm also reviewing this week, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But all in all, this is a really excellent display, as I'd come to expect from Samsung. But this brings me to some of the less positive aspects of the main display. Now, first, you will notice that the bezels on the Flip 5 are larger compared to, say, on the S23, and there's also a raised lip going all the way around the display. Now, while this is necessary for the folding action, it doesn't look as sharp, and when you are swiping from the left or right side of the display, or especially the bottom, you will feel this at times. But these points are small when compared to the elephant in the room, and that is the crease. Now, I've seen some YouTubers over-exaggerate and others understate the impact of the crease, and I've got to say, after a couple of weeks of using the phone, here is how I see it. Is the crease visible? Absolutely. I think when the display is off, or even when you're looking at a lower brightness, or when you're looking at a darker image, say in a video or in night mode, you will see the crease in the reflections of your content or in the display. Plus in the content itself, as it scrolls past the crease, there is ever so slightly, you can see a bit of warp, shall I say. You can see almost a little bump in the content. I'll do my best to capture this on camera, but it's not as flat as the rest of the display. But more important than that to me is that when you're using the phone, there will definitely be times where you feel it with your hand. Now, most cases, you'll be swiping or scrolling rather in the lower half of the phone where you don't feel it as much. But when you're looking at menus or even you slightly adjust the grip, you will probably feel it as you go. And while over time you do get used to it, every time I switch back to a hard glass surface, like for example on the iPhone 14 or the S23, the Flip 5, the display on the Flip 5 always just feels a bit softer and just not as quality. And lastly, and I think most importantly, is the one thought that can't fully escape my mind, is knowing that the crease will always be the Achilles heel of this phone. I've seen countless examples of Galaxy Flip 4s after sometimes even less than a year showing permanent damage in the crease area. Now, to be fair, my Flip 5 has held up really well so far with no signs of damage, and I sincerely hope that this improved hinge is going to help the longevity, but for that we'll have to wait and see. So be sure to subscribe to not miss my long-term review. Now let's talk about the cameras. Now compared to the previous Flip 4, the Flip 5 actually has the same cameras, but does show some improvements in the image processing thanks to the new processor that is inside. But we'll talk more about performance in a sec. Now the Flip 5's dual lens camera system consists of a 12 megapixel main sensor and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. And this means there's no telephoto lens, unlike say on the Galaxy S23, which even when comparing just the main and the ultra wide lenses, you do get a better camera system on the S23. That said, let's take a look at some examples straight from the Flip 5's cameras. Now, in general, I found the color profile to be slightly more on the vibrant side when compared to the contrasty look of, say, the Pixels, and the more flat, true-to-life profile of the iPhones. For example, in this shot here, you can see the mini golf course, the beautiful blue skies, and the colorful flowers. And this color profile really makes colors pop and content look good, arguably making it more social media ready. Now, in terms of detail, while it's not as sharp as the Galaxy S23's camera, there's still a decent level of detail, where here in this photo of me, you can see details are retained in my hair as well as my shirt, as well as this shot here looking at the balconies or the leaves in the trees. Now, a similar thing can also be said about the ultra-wide lens, which actually also performs really quite well with no distortion around the edges, something that you do still find in some other phones. And then when it comes to dynamic range, there's a bit more noise when compared to the S23 or say the iPhone 14, but overall there is good dynamic range, showing details both in the black dark parts of this building, as well as the clear blue sky, a rare occurrence here in London. And then with that f1.8 aperture on the main lens, the Flip 5 produces a really nice natural bokeh. Check out the shallow depth of field look in the background here of me wearing the brand new Galaxy Watch 6. Let me know, by the way, if you'd like to see me review this or compare it to the Apple Watch. Now, speaking of focus, compared to the S23, I did find the focus on the Flip 5 to be a bit slower and a slightly less accurate, where at times I did have to tap to focus to bring my subject into focus. That said, one of the big advantages of this Flip form factor is that you can actually use the main cameras as a selfie camera. And this is of course possible because you can use the cover screen as your viewfinder, allowing for better quality selfies. And selfies this way really look quite good. There's noticeably more detail and depth when compared to using the inner selfie camera. And then turning the lights down for low light shots, the Flip 5 performs above average. And here in my almost pitch black living room, it still manages to create light and pull details from the controller, albeit with a bit more noise than say compared to the S23. And the same thing can be said for the low light selfie, which I think overall looks really great. Video quality is strong too. In fact, it is not far off from the S23. The Flip 5 is of course great to film yourself using that cover screen, letting you frame up the shot. I found the video to be sharp, stabilization is good, and it adapts smoothly to changes in exposure. And the mic quality is quite good too, where voices sound natural, and it does a decent job at blocking wind noise. Overall, the camera system on the Flip 5 is good. But in the context of this being a $999 phone, it is still not the best, and you can find better at a lower price. For example, the S23 or the iPhone 14. And this is something to consider if you choose to go for this Flip form factor. Now, let's talk performance. The Flip 5 uses the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip that is actually optimized for Galaxy. We also saw this in the S23 and the S23 Ultra, and it is equally great on the Flip 5. Samsung's version of One UI 5.1 on top of Android 13 runs really well. Day-to-day performance is snappy and sharp, and even in heavier tasks, while the phone does get a bit warm on the upper half, it still manages to keep up really well, whether that be in games and video and photo editing. You really get flagship performance as you'd expect for this price. Plus, I want to give some extra credit to Samsung here. As compared to previous chips, for example, those in the S22 and S23, the chip found in the Z Flip 5, the same one in the S23, feels much more polished. You get far less glitches, random app crashes really are a thing of the past. And I'd say day-to-day performance of this newest line of Samsung phones, again, including the Flip 5, is very close to what you get with the iPhone from Apple, and is definitely amongst the best of what you'll find on the Android side. And then to take this one step further, Samsung promises up to 3 years of software support and up to 5 years of security updates. Now, this is still not as good as what you get on the iPhone with this 6 to 7 years, but Android manufacturers are catching up and Samsung is really leading that charge, and that is great to see. Now, when it came to battery life, at first I was a bit concerned, but the 3700 mAh battery that you get on the Flip 5, while it is smaller compared to the 3900 mAh battery on the S23, still performs quite well. I would say I can get anywhere from 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, which is just about 1 hour less compared to the S23 and the iPhone 14. And this is impressive, especially because the battery is smaller, and well, of course, you get that second display. I would say with moderate to heavy use, it can last for about a full workday, and then with light to moderate use, it can last a full workday and evening. The Flip 5 also supports wireless charging and can also fast charge from 0 to 50% in just 30 minutes. Okay, so what are my final thoughts after using the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 5? Well, I enjoyed using this phone, in fact more than I thought I would. Having had the chance to really immerse myself and experience this unique form factor over the past weeks, I can say that I get it and do think that there's a group of people for whom this would really be the ideal phone. I think if you find yourself drawn to the possibility of having a phone that is as portable as this and one that makes no compromise on the display size, plus of course having that admittedly really cool folding aspect and now much more functional and bigger cover screen, the Flip 5 may just be the best phone for you. However, as a tech reviewer, I have to again highlight the compromises that for the time being, you'll have to make with a form factor like this. And there's really two worth mentioning. The first is durability. While yes, this is improving every year, and this new Hinge design promises to again be more durable than the last, there is no denying that the Flip 5 will not last as long as say an S23 or the iPhone 14. It just won't. Additionally, the camera system, while still above average, is not the best in class, and I think for the price you can get better, again, in the iPhone 14 or the S23. But other than that, you get top level performance, great software longevity, decent battery life, and an incredible, albeit more fragile main display. And this is absolutely one of the coolest form factors and phone designs that is out right now. Plus, the Flip 5 now starts with 256 gigabytes, which makes that $999 price tag a bit more sensible. I think if you're looking to try your first foldable phone, this is the best place to start. Anyway guys, let me know if you have any questions at all. For more of my thoughts on Samsung's new folding phones, be sure to check out my Galaxy Fold 5 review, also coming this week, and be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching and take care.